Hey gamers, did you know video games are way more than just pixels and explosions? They're like time machines and epic tales packed in the controllers in your hands. Or, your keyboard and mouse also count, huh? Or, well, forget it. Everything, anyone, and anything from this world can shape these experiences, turning them into fiery quests, thrilling adventures, and legendary tales. In this video, I'm bringing you 10 insane video games inspired by real-world events, people, and incidents. Some are intense, some are downright bizarre, but trust me, they all take you on a roller coaster. And hey, this is just the first part of a crazy trilogy I'm cooking up. Believe me, the next parts will leave you hanging. So, if you want to cheer me on to get the next two parts out ASAP, let me know in the comments. Now it's time to dive into this insane mix of reality and gaming magic. Squid Game Unleashed. Get ready for a game where survival is the only prize, a game where every step you take could be your last. Squid Game Unleashed is coming soon to Android and iOS, timed perfectly with the release of Squid Game Season 2 on December 26th. This mobile game promises high-stakes competition, brutal challenges, and a deep dive into the deadly thrills that made the Netflix series a worldwide phenomenon. But beneath the flashy gameplay and scripted horror lies a chilling real-life story. The disturbing inspiration behind Squid Game is tied to one of South Korea's darkest chapters, Brothers' Home, a so-called welfare facility in 1980s Busan that became a horrific nightmare. The man behind this facility, Park In-kyun, abducted society's most vulnerable, homeless individuals, orphans, and even children as young as 14. Instead of providing refuge, Brothers' Home became a house of horrors. Inside the hellish walls of Brothers' Home, prisoners were subjected to cramped conditions, forced labor, and sadistic games designed to punish and torment. One of the most brutal games was known as the motor vehicle game, where beatings left the prisoners battered and broken. Another notable one, called the Hiroshima game, was a brutal endurance test designed to push prisoners to their physical and mental limits. Those who failed to withstand the severe punishment faced ruthless and unforgiving consequences, often suffering extreme physical harm or worse. Officially, over 500 people died within Brothers' Home, but survivors know that true death toll was far higher. Park profited off their suffering selling goods made through forced labor, while his family lived in luxury even after the truth of his crimes came to light. The scars of his victims like Choi Sung-woo and Park Sun-hee, who were children when they were taken, remain to this day. This time around, as the Squid Game Unleashed in Season 2 hit your screens, remember, this isn't just thrilling fiction. It's a raw emotional reflection of survival, human nature, and the true face of evil, exposing the immense pain that can be inflicted upon others. The Bridge Curse 2. In The Bridge Curse 2, you'll assume the roles of 4 characters, each ensnared by an ancient curse, thrust into a nightmare beyond their control. What begins as innocent fun quickly turns into a deadly struggle, as the boundary between reality and terror crumbles. Among the spiritual encounter is the tragic mad ballerina, whose sorrow and rage spill into the living world with a vengeance. To survive, you'll need to solve cryptic puzzles, unravel dark secrets, and trust your instincts, all while trying to escape the sinister forces that stalk you at every turn. But the terror doesn't end with the game. While The Bridge Curse 2 crafts its own chilling narrative, it draws partial inspiration from the real-life tragedy of Elisa Lam. In 2013, Elisa, a 20-year-old Canadian student, traveled to Los Angeles for an adventure. She stayed at the infamous Cecil Hotel, where her life took a chilling turn. After a strange encounter captured on hotel elevator surveillance footage, Elisa was reported missing. The footage showed her behaving erratically, pressing multiple elevator buttons and hiding in the corner, as though trying to escape an unseen force. This moment is reflected in a pivotal part of the video game, where players watch a similar scene of her desperate struggle on a videotape, evoking a deep sense of empathy for Elisa's family. Her body was later found in a water tank on the hotel's rooftop, and her tragic death was ruled accidental by authorities. However, the disturbing footage coupled with the bizarre circumstances of her death sparked widespread speculation. Some believed it was paranormal, others pointed to foul play or mental illness. Guests at the hotel even reported strange tasting water, unknowingly drinking from the tank where Elisa's body had been found. Elisa's tragic story, marked by struggles with isolation and mental illness, resonates deeply with the eerie experiences you'll endure in the Bridge Curse 2. Silent Hill. Silent Hill, a name that strikes fear and lingers long after you hear it. It's more than just a game, it's a descent into a nightmare born from our deepest regrets, where shadows whisper our darkest secrets. With the recent remake, Silent Hill pulls players back into its chilling grip, offering both new and old fans an unforgettable experience. At its core, Silent Hill isn't just about the monsters, it's about the horror that lives within us. The game's world is alive with dread, using disturbing visuals and haunting soundscapes to blur the lines between reality and nightmare. But what makes Silent Hill even more unnerving is its connection to a real-world tragedy. The ghostly town of Silent Hill was inspired by Centralia, Pennsylvania. Centralia, located in the eastern part of the state, became a symbol of devastation after an underground mine fire ignited in May 1962. The fire has continued to burn beneath the town for over 6 decades, producing toxic gases and causing ground subsidence that has made the area uninhabitable. What was once a thriving mining town with a population of over 1,000 people is now a near-abandoned ghost town, with only a few residents still living there despite government efforts to evacuate. The fire in Centralia was accidentally started when a landfill fire ignited near the entrance to an old coal mine. The fire spread underground into the coal veins, making it impossible to control. Over time, smoke and gas seeped through the ground, creating dangerous conditions for residents. By the 1980s, the government began forcibly relocating residents, and the remaining buildings were demolished. The eerie landscape of Centralia, with its empty streets, abandoned buildings, and visible smoke plumes, became the inspiration for the fog-filled town of Silent Hill. The Stalker, glowing green, bleeding red. Imagine stepping into a world where every breath you take could burn you from the inside out. Where the very air is alive with radiation waiting to tear you apart. Welcome to the S.T.A.L.K.E.R universe, where the line between life and death is as fragile as the crumbling buildings that surround you. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, particularly Heart of Chernobyl, immerses players in a decaying world where reality warps under the weight of disaster. The game is set in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a haunting place where abandoned buildings loom like forgotten skeletons and mutated creatures prowl through the dense fog. S.T.A.L.K.E.R draws direct inspiration from the catastrophic events surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, which took place on April 26, 1986. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant, located near Pripyat, Ukraine, suffered a devastating meltdown during a late-night safety test that went horribly wrong. The explosion released massive amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere, contaminating the surrounding areas and forcing the evacuation of nearby towns, including Pripyat. The zone in S.T.A.L.K.E.R transcends being merely a physical space, serving as a metaphor for the tragic aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster. It draws from the real-life exclusion zone, a 30-kilometer radius around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, where radiation levels remain dangerously high to this day. But within the game, the zone is not just a place, it's a symptom, a rupture in the noosphere where reality itself bends and distorts. The real-world disaster profoundly shapes the haunting atmosphere of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, with its chilling depictions of abandoned landmarks like the Ferris wheel and the crumbling Hospital No. 126 in Pripyat, set against a backdrop of desolate, irradiated landscapes. By blending real-life events with fictional elements, mutated creatures and otherworldly anomalies, S.T.A.L.K.E.R crafts an experience that not only captures the dread of Chernobyl's tragedy, but also delves into its enduring effects, from genetic mutations haunting future generations to the looming shadows of disease and the soul-crushing loss of everything one once held dear. The Medium, haunting legacy of Poland's spiritual past. The Medium is a psychological horror that delves deep into the shadows of the human psyche. Set in the eerie, abandoned Hotel Niva, modeled after Krakow's real-life Hotel Cracovia, which closed in 2011, the game's narrative weaves together themes of personal trauma and the supernatural. The Medium draws inspiration from Poland's rich history of spiritualism, where mediums and clairvoyants have long bridged the divide between the living and the dead. Poland's history of war and societal upheaval has profoundly shaped its mystical beliefs. Figures such as British psychic researcher Harry Price, who referred to Poland as the home of mediums in 1939, and influential mediums like Agnieszka Pilkowa, Jan Guzik, and Frank Kluski have helped solidify spiritualism as a key element of Polish culture. This blend of skepticism and belief still echoes through the nation's spiritual legacy. The game's protagonist Marianne embodies the essence of Poland's most renowned mediums, channeling experiences from both the living and the dead. Her connection to the spirit world mirrors figures such as Stanisława Tomzik, famous for her psychokinesis and psychic photography, and Stanisława Popielska, known for her alleged ectoplasm manifestations. One of the game's most striking features is its visual style, profoundly influenced by the nightmarish surreal art of Polish painter Zdzisław Beksiński. His unsettling depictions of decay and dystopia are reflected in the game's portrayal of the spirit world, creating an atmosphere that is both haunting and beautiful. The oppressive beauty of the setting underscores Marianne's journey through grief, trauma, and the supernatural. The Medium weaves together real-life spiritualism, the haunting art of Beksiński, and Poland's harrowing tapestry of war, deep cultural roots, and mysticism into a chilling narrative that lingers long after the journey ends. Far Cry 5: The Bloody Salvation. Hope County, Montana, where a doomsday cult called Project at Eden's Gate controls the region. The cult's leader, Joseph Seed, is a disturbing villain, charismatic yet fanatical, shaping the game's dark narrative. What makes the game even more unsettling is its inspiration from real-life events, particularly the chilling story of Terrio, the leader of the infamous cult Anthill Kids. Like Seed, Terrio was a self-proclaimed messiah, manipulating followers with promises of salvation while subjecting them to physical and psychological torment. He constantly warned his followers of the impending apocalypse, specifically telling them the world would end in February 1979, a promised day of reckoning, a chilling echo of Joseph Seed's doomsday prophecies in Far Cry 5. Seed, much like Terrio, repeatedly preaches that the end of the world is coming, driven by his delusional beliefs. This culminates in the game's apocalypse finale, where Seed detonates nuclear bombs, believing it is the fulfillment of his twisted prophecy. To further highlight the inspiration, it's worth mentioning that Terrio called himself Moses and even gave some of his followers biblical names, much like the names of Joseph Seed's family, Jacob, John, and other related names like Ethan and Faith Seed. In my opinion, the symbolism in Joseph Seed's name is no accident. Joseph evokes a spiritual savior, while Seed refers to Terrio's disturbing ideology of spreading his seed to propagate his vision of a pure community. Terrio's belief that he must spread his seed by impregnating his followers, hiding his evil sexual intentions behind a facade of purity, mirrors Seed's attempt to plant his belief through violence and manipulation in Hope County. Additionally, the game's portrayal of psychological control draws clear inspiration from cult figures like Charles Manson. Like Joseph Seed, Manson manipulated his followers through fear, isolation, and promises of a better future. The use of the hallucinogenic flower The Bliss in Far Cry 5 serves as a powerful metaphor for Manson's use of mind-altering substances, such as LSD, to dominate and control the feeble minds of his followers, highlighting the dark tactics employed by real-world cult leaders to maintain power. Plague Tale: A Journey to the Darkest Side of Human History. The dark world of Aquitaine, France 1348, a land ravaged by the Black Death and the brutal 100 Years' War between France and England. In this time of despair, fear controls everything, and survival seems almost impossible. A Plague Tale series immerses players in this harsh reality through the eyes of young siblings Amicia and Hugo. A notable fact is that Amicia's character is loosely inspired by figures like Joan of Arc. Amicia's courage, dedication to protecting her brother, and most importantly her distinctive outfit, including pants and a vest, are all reminder of Joan, who famously wore men's clothes, a behavior that was considered immensely odd and even profane during her time. In the midst of a plague that wiped out nearly a third of Europe's population, the siblings must navigate a collapsing world filled with death and destruction. Aside from the video game's fictional elements, the game has attempted to capture the harsh reality of the Black Death era as a whole, aiming for as much accuracy as possible. Streets and fields are filled with massive piles of unburied corpses, a grim and haunting reflection of the overwhelming death toll during the time. The sheer scale of death made proper burials impossible, and the game portrays this unsettling reality with harrowing detail. Another accurate fact is that, in their fear and paranoia, communities turn violent, blaming outsiders and Jews as the cause of spreading the disease. This fear-driven hostility plays out in encounters with soldiers and townspeople, showing the harsh survival instinct central to the game. Adding more depth, A Plague Tale transports players to richly detailed historical environments. The Château de Mirage is inspired by Château de Robert le Diable. While the eerie Red City takes cues from Château de Binac in Dordogne. Other iconic locations like Château de Caen, Château de la Baraye, and Château de Bonagil influenced the game's realistic medieval settings, placing the story firmly in 14th century France. As supernatural elements mixed with historical horrors, the game creates a world that's both terrifying and captivating. Amicia and Hugo's journey is a story of unwavering perseverance, reminding us of humanity's ability to survive even in the darkest of times. Welcome to Kowloon, the Maze of Despair. History has continually tested the limits of human endurance, and once again Welcome to Kowloon plunges us into the depths of the infamous Kowloon Vault City, where survival is pushed to its breaking point and fear and resilience intertwine in a relentless struggle for life. Welcome to Kowloon is a deeply immersive horror game that thrusts players into the suffocating heart of the notorious Kowloon Vault City, once known as the City of Darkness. As a young student searching for affordable housing, you soon discover this chaotic maze hides far more than you expected. Beneath the crumbling walls and claustrophobic alleys, you'll find not just eerie threats but also the city's haunting secrets while finding your way through its dark corridors. This nightmare is inspired by the real Kowloon Vault City, which was demolished in 1994. Located in Hong Kong, Kowloon was a lawless settlement where sunlight rarely touched the ground. The city's cramped maze of towering makeshift buildings housed thousands in dire condition without windows, proper sanitation, or fresh air. Amidst this decay, crime ran rampant and even dentists operated without formal training. The people of Kowloon faced daily struggles to survive in an environment filled with constant unease. Kowloon's influence extends well beyond just video games. The city's grim legacy has also inspired films, books, and even real-life themed experiences. In Hong Kong, there is a haunted attraction known as the airside Hollow City Haunted House, a chilling maze modeled after Kowloon Walled City. It serves as proof that people's curiosity has led them to connect with the emotions of those trapped in that mega coffin in various ways. And in its final moments, Welcome to Kowloon doesn't just leave players in fear, it forces them to reflect on the past, ensuring that the forgotten stories of Kowloon are never lost to time. This is the Zodiac speaking, the enigma of America's most notorious killer. Step into the twisted mind of the Zodiac Killer, and this is Zodiac speaking, a first-person psychological thriller set in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s. You play as Robert Hartnell, a survivor of Zodiac's terror, navigating a world filled with fear and uncertainty. The Zodiac's reign of terror began on December 20th, 1968, when he murdered high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday near Vallejo, California. This was just the beginning of a series of brutal killings that would horrify the nation. He taunted law enforcement and the public with cryptic letters and codes, challenging them to decode his messages. One of his most infamous letters began with the chilling phrase, "This is the Zodiac speaking," forever cementing his place in American crime history. Though the Zodiac is confirmed to have killed at least 5 people between 1968 and 1969, many believe there are more victims, making him one of the most terrifying and mysterious criminals of all time. As you explore eerie crime scenes like Lake Berryessa and San Francisco, you must use stealth and detective skills to piece together this unsolved mystery. The chilling atmosphere pulls you deep into the investigation. You should know there's also a gripping documentary series on Netflix titled This is the Zodiac Speaking, which further explores the case, offering a detailed look at the investigation and the lasting cultural impact of the Zodiac's crimes. Theories about the Zodiac's identity remains hotly debated, with names like Arthur Leigh Allen still being discussed as potential suspects. While the game offers a haunting experience, it sometimes struggles to fully capture the weight of the Zodiac's crimes, with certain gameplay choices leaving players wanting more. A way out, breaking out of the unbreakable. Everything has a price, but earning freedom demands something far more intricate than a few clever twists. It takes courage, cunning, intelligence, and occasionally a dash of stupidity. In A Way Out, players take on the roles of Vincent and Leo, 2 prisoners with unique backgrounds and skills. This fascinating co-op experience challenges you to break free not just from the prison, but also from the problems that arise along the way, relying on teamwork and strategy to navigate the obstacles ahead. The fun part is that the story behind the game has an unbelievably unparalleled origin. A Way Out draws heavy inspiration from the real-life escape of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, from Alcatraz in June 1962, adding a layer of gritty realism to the daring adventure. Alcatraz, located in San Francisco Bay, was home to some of America's most dangerous criminals. On the night of June 11, 1962, Frank and the Anglin brothers made an audacious escape that has since become legendary. They spent months preparing, creating lifelike dummy heads from paper mache and hair from the prison barbershop to fool guards during bed checks. These decoys bought them valuable time. Using homemade tools, they enlarged the ventilation ducts and built a secret workshop above their cells, where they assembled a raft from stolen raincoats. On escape night, they crawled through the ducts, climbed to the roof, and descended 50 feet down a kitchen vent pipe. At the shoreline, they inflated their raft with a stolen concertina and launched it into the cold waters of San Francisco Bay, hoping to make it to safety. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, still on the U.S. Marshals wanted list, are part of one of the most famous stories in American criminal history, and A Way Out mirrors their daring quest for freedom with its tale of courage and creativity against unyielding walls. Alright amigos, if you enjoyed watching this video and want to see the next parts, let me know in the comments, hit subscribe, give this video a thumbs up and ring that bell to stay in the loop when the next content drops. Catch you in the next video and remember, keep on being awesome!